Welcome to Conquering College Cost. We're going to talk about the execution phase, and I'm going to use the terminology that is very recent. That terminology is called FAFSA simplification. You're going to notice in the first bullet on this slide, it says complete the FAFSA after October 1, and then I have /December. The reason why we indicate /December is this is the first year of FAFSA simplification. So for those families whose students are high school seniors today, that document is not going to be ready until December of 2023 for the 2024-25 academic year. However, going forward, we anticipate that we'll revert back to when it's always been available in the past, and that is during the month of October. So the idea is that we're going to enter the execution phase. That execution phase cannot be entered until we're in senior year. You've done good planning. You have an idea of where your son or daughter is going to apply. They may not have applied to all the schools yet. They may be still working on the schools they're going to apply to. But you've done your planning. You're cognizant of this concept of financial fit. But you have to execute all of this so that it actually happens. So you're going to file the document. You're going to file the document based on a tax return that is already completed, and you're going to file the document based on your savings and investments on the day that you actually file. What are those asset values on that particular day? Now, how is that document going to be viewed? What are the drivers? They're going to eventually get the end result. The end result, which is called your student aid index. There are 4 drivers. The first driver is that adjusted gross income. The bottom line of the front page of the tax return. That's the data that they're going to use to drive element number 1, the biggest driver of this SAI index number. Now, one of the things they're going to do is they're going to take out certain elements of that income. They'll take out federal taxes, they'll take out state taxes, they'll take out FICA, Social Security contributions, and they're also going to take out expenses. But they're not going to ask you about your personal expenses. They create an expense allowance. Now, the good news for people who have filed FAFSA in the past is they've increased that expense allowance. And so ultimately in FAFSA simplification, they are actually reducing the impact of parent income in the actual equation. They've also taken out a number of variables in the category of untaxed income. So primarily, they're looking at the bottom line of the front page of the tax return. The second element that's going to be used as a driver in this calculation is the student income. But there's a lot of flexibility here. I never think that a student income, a dependent student income, should impact this calculation because there's quite a bit of flexibility in terms of what a student can earn before an income is actually taken from that amount. In the past, it was about $6,600, and then 50% of earnings beyond that would be added to the calculation. That figure is even going up now with FAFSA simplification. The third category that is going to impact this student aid index is the parents' savings and investments. But the first thing you need to know when you go to this line item on the document is there are certain categories of savings and investments that should not be recorded. Those particular categories are the equity of one's home and the value of any retirement plans you own. No matter how that retirement plan is titled, is it a program at work, a 401k, a 403b? Is it an independent SEP, an IRA, a Roth? Is it tax-deferred annuity? Is cash value of life insurance? All of these components are assets that you can own, have potentially owned, but should not be recorded on the document at all. Now, what they're going to do with those savings and investments is that is going to impact the dollars that are used in the calculation of SAI, beyond those that you don't record. So planning. Can planning be an element here of what you should do with your savings and investments? You might want to consider that. That is going to be a higher element than in the past. As they moved to FAFSA simplification, what they did was lower the expectation from income and increase the expectation from savings and investments. But what you do with your savings and investments is totally up to you prior to the day that you file the document. There are categories that have to be included and categories that should not be included. And then, of course, there's the category of the student savings and investments. And that also will be judged pretty harshly as it relates to increasing the student aid index. About 30% of that savings and investment listed under the Social Security number of the student is going to be a dollar amount added to this SAI. Now, there's always been some confusion about 529 college savings programs. 529 college savings programs, no matter how they are listed, how they are titled rather, they should be recorded as a parent asset and not a student asset. So the question that always gets asked is, does it make sense to indeed reorganize savings and investments in advance of filing the document? What I would suggest to you is use your software programs. You go ahead and use net price calculators. Understand that they're planning tools. And if you feel like you need to reshuffle your deck, so to speak, to assess and determine whether that will have a bearing on the eventual net price, go ahead and do that. And then at some point, if you need to talk to your advisor, your financial advisor, your planner, someone who has expertise in this area, you might want to consider that as a possibility. All right, let's move to the next bullet. And you'll see in the next bullet, I suggest to you that if indeed you are going to apply to those highly selective institutions, they're probably going to want you to file another document. That document is called the CSS profile. And that particular document will ask for a lot more information than what is asked for on FAFSA. So ultimately, if you've used your net price calculators, you've looked at those highly selectives, you think they might be affordable, follow through with the filing of that document as well. When you file the FAFSA this year for the first time, you're going to be able to list up to 20 different colleges or universities. This goes hand in hand with everything that I've talked about in relationship to the planning phase. More than ever, it's important that you as a family help your son or daughter identify multiple colleges. 5, 7, 10, 12 schools that student might apply to. Because ultimately, what you want to do is come away with options. When you get to looking at your out-of-pocket cost, you want to be able to have enough options on that kitchen table so that you can make some prudent decisions. If you find out that you've been notified after you file that you are subject to verification, please don't panic. You haven't done anything wrong. The federal government wants colleges to verify that families have been filing the document correctly. And so they randomly select FAFSA filers. Randomly select. Not because you did anything wrong in filing. So if indeed the college is following up, indicating you're subject to verification, supply them with any information they request. It's simply a part of the process. So what's going to happen after you file, after the student applies and gets accepted, is you're going to get your official financial aid award. This financial aid award could very well include the merit side, the loan, the student loan, potentially campus employment, and the possibility for other need-based resources. A more comprehensive look at what we will call column 3, your out-of-pocket cost. But now we have new variables. Now we have variables that may cause you to appeal that information. Column 4, what institutions will be willing to work with you? Because now you're going to disclose to them there's more information they need to know about your family. What are those pieces of information they may need to know? For example, in the past, if you had more than one child attending college at the same time, that could be a benefit to you in the calculation. They've eliminated that question. So ultimately now you have to share that information with the college directly. All right, you're seeing our student aid index, college, university, but no, we have another child and we're paying X amount of money at a university for that school. Or we're going to have 2 going out in college at the same time. We have 3 children in college. Point of the view is every family is going to be different, and those universities are going to need to know that, but they're not going to learn that as you file the FAFSA any longer. What about medical expenses? What if you have insurance costs you're paying out of pocket? What if you have out-of-pocket costs yourselves, deductibles? Those particular costs are not recorded in FAFSA. Those colleges may want to learn about that. What if you have other children, a disabled child in your family that takes a lot of resources? Or maybe you have other children that are at private high schools or private grade schools. There are educational costs involved in other family members. Parents going to college that are costing you. You paying your own student loans back. All of these variables that are outside of the questions asked on FAFSA. And there may be other circumstances. Losses of income. You know, future income is not as significant as past income. There are many variables that are outside FAFSA, and those variables are explained to each university through an appeal process. Some colleges will have forms on their websites for appeals. In some circumstances, they'll ask you to send in appeal letters. And in some circumstances, it'll simply start with a conversation with an admissions person. Remember I talked about the value of the relationship with that admissions person? That you need to have that person be a mentor, a helper, someone that assists you in the process. Make sure you work with that admissions person so that you can get all of that information clarified and they can move you through the appeal cycle. All right. Ultimately, you're going to go ahead and look at your column 3, look at your column 4 once you get to column 4. And then you're going to then decide, is it worth it? Is there any value in having a conversation with our number 1 choice school when it is indeed not the most affordable? You've done all of the work. You've gotten to column 4, but college A is the number 1 choice. And yet you know B's affordable and C's affordable and D's affordable, but A's the number 1 choice, and it seems to be beyond your affordability. Why not have an honest conversation with college A? Show them that you're not just taking a number out of the blue, but you're really looking at tax credits and cash flow and available savings and reasonable borrowing. How did you get to that figure? Show them how you got to it. Show them the other institutions that are affordable to you. Indicate to them that your son or daughter still would like to go to their institution. See if they're willing to work with you. Some will, some won't. You only will find out if you go through that process. You're going to make your final college choice. That final college choice needs to be done by May 1st of senior year. Now, it may end up, once you make that determination, that you as a parent will have to borrow money. There are a number of different ways that you should explore the idea of parent borrowing. There is a federal program called the Parent Loan to Undergraduate Students. Colleges can help you with the access to that particular program. But I have a handout in the list of handouts that are available to you through all of these particular seminars. There's a whole series of handouts. One of the handouts is on college borrowing. And before you make that determination, whether you do it yourself or you work with your financial advisor, you may assess and determine what is indeed the best method in your family to borrow money to pay for college. I'm going to encourage your son or daughter to hunt for campus employment. Obviously, it's a good idea to do that as early as possible, sometimes through even summer orientation programs. They can begin to learn about jobs available. Normally, it's the student that takes the online loan class because they're going to be signing the promissory note. They're going to be the one that's going to be committed to the repayment program after graduation. So you want students to understand what their commitment's going to be. And then potentially you'll have a conversation with the college of your choice to develop the payment program. But ultimately, from the beginning to the end, that's how the program works, to conquer your college choice so that your son or daughter can find the right institution and you can do it without excessive borrowing. Now what I'd like to do is to have you go to our last video on some institutions, colleges, universities that literally are partnering with us and giving us the opportunity to do this presentation to you. So a big thank you to the University of Tampa in Tampa, Florida, to St. Xavier in Chicago, Illinois, to Bradley University in Peoria, and to St. Ambrose in Davenport, Iowa. Please spend some time on those particular videos. And if you have any opportunity to share these links to your friends, please do this. My goal is to get good information out to as many families as possible so that we can conquer our college costs.